Ammar is 39 years old. He was born in Kuwait and lived in Iran, and he was arrested in 2003 in Pakistan, and shortly thereafter found himself in CIA custody during the time of the CIA rendition, interrogation, and detention program, which I think is well known, again, around the world. And he was held for 3.5 years in the CIA secret prisons, which in English we call the black sites. They're called the black sites because no one knew where they were, and no one knew who was being held there. He was essentially being held in arbitrary detention for 3.5 years, away from the rest of the world, away from lawyers, away from his family. While he was in CIA custody, he was just brutally tortured. This is an unclassified statement. He writes, "I wasn't just being suspended to the ceiling. I was naked, starved, dehydrated, cold, hooded, threatened, in pain from the beating and the water drowning, my head smashed by hitting against the wall for dozens and dozens of times. My ears were exploding from the blasting, harsh music, which is still stuck in my head." And he wrote this December 2015. "Sleep deprived for weeks. I was shaking and trembling. My legs barely supported my weight as my hands were pulled even higher above my head after I complained that the handcuffs were so tight that they were cutting through my wrist. My legs started to swell as a result of long suspension. I started screaming. The doctor came with a measuring tape, wrapped it around my leg, and to my utmost shock, the doctor told the interrogators, 'No, that wasn't enough. My leg should get more swollen.'" So this is just a small sample of some of the torture that he had to go through at the black sites, and this was done to him for 3.5 years before he was finally brought to Guantanamo Bay. The U.S. government has tried to say that Ammar's torture ended when he was brought to Guantanamo Bay, and that is not the case. A normal prison is for men who have been convicted of a crime. Guantanamo is not for men who have been convicted of any crimes. Guantanamo is specifically for men who are of a certain color, are of a certain race, or of a certain religion, and for them to be tortured and held indefinitely. That's what Guantanamo is for. When it was first opened in 2002, it consisted of essentially just dog cages, which were just fences, just open-air fences. These men were being kept out in the open air. There was no building, there were no doors, there were no windows, there was nothing. It was just outside. The guards used dogs to terrorize them. They were beaten, they were tortured. Female guards harassed them. They were held naked. There were, just 1,000 ways in which they were tortured at Guantanamo. And so that's the reason Guantanamo has become synonymous, really, with torture. Now, over the years, as the prison has become more permanent, there are obviously buildings now. There are several camps in which the detainees are held. I think that needs to be made clear to the public that it hasn't disappeared. It hasn't gotten better. There are fewer detainees there now, but that doesn't mean that for the 41 detainees still there, and for the 10 who are on trial before the military commissions, and for Ammar, my client, that there is still not a crisis existing, that he does not still suffer from the effects of his torture, and that there is still patent injustice in the system at Guantanamo. And so I think the more that we can educate the public and raise public awareness about this and put pressure on the United States government to end the military commissions, to certainly remove the death penalty from these men, and to improve conditions of detention until they are able to end detention at Guantanamo and close the prison for good. That is what we are looking for from public mobilization.